I want to do a little recap over some of the gear that I picked up over 2024 that I really loved. Now this isn't going to be just full-on reviews over any of these pieces, and also I'll just let you know, a lot of these things didn't come out in 2024, I'm just now getting around to picking it up. And with the exclusion of 2 of these items, these are all purchased with my own money. So kicking it off, we're going to talk about the Sony FX30. Now I've been using the Lumix S5, which is what I'm shooting on right now, since launch, but I've just really wanted a camera that had just extremely good autofocus. And I know the S5 II exists now, but I wanted to make sure that it was something that had near perfect autofocus, especially for a lot of the workflow I do with some weddings, and then also shooting a lot of truck content and things like that. Now, one major reason why I wanted to pick it up is because this thing is basically strictly a video camera. You can shoot stills with it, but when I have this camera in hand, I know for sure that the only thing I'm going to be doing with it is shooting video. Now, I've had this for about 6 months, and quite honestly, I don't really have any complaints. Even going from a full-frame camera to the crop sensor, I still think it looks incredible. I still get great low-light performance. The image is very, very easy to color grade. Probably not as easy as the S5. That might be my only gripe, but it's still incredibly easy to color grade. And since I use it as strictly a video camera, there's a ton of different ways that I can actually rig this out to make it like a little mini cinema rig. So I might do a full video on this thing later on, but this is probably, of anything on this list, I'm just kicking off with my absolute favorite. This is probably the #1 thing on my list. Next up is this Audio-Technica AT875R. I did have to look to remember that name. Now, I've been on the fence about buying this microphone for quite a while. It's quite old. I don't know exactly when it came out. I'll throw something up on screen. But I watched a video from Tom Buck, which I'll link down below as well to his channel. When I watched that video, it finally just solidified the fact that I wanted to purchase this thing because I wanted just a really good XLR shotgun microphone, but I don't want to spend $500, $1,000 or whatever. So this ended up being the perfect option. I even used one of these at my full-time job. So the sound on it is incredibly good and the build quality is fantastic. But the biggest thing about this thing is that you can pick these up for brand new, I think for about $170, whereas I bought this used, like new condition from MPB for $80, which is absolutely insane. So instead of hearing me just blab on about it, I'll let you actually hear what it sounds like. So this isn't the most ideal setup for it, but as you can hear, it just sounds really good. It's a very easy mic. It's, at least for my voice, it's a very easy mic to work with. And once again, I absolutely love the price for it. And because it is just a bare bones XLR microphone, I really don't have any complaints about it. There's nothing to gripe about with this. It just does its freaking job, and it's built like a tank, which I'm appreciative of. Now we have the Rode Wireless Pros. Now, in this state that we're in with it, especially in the filmmaking space, there's just an ungodly amount of different wireless microphone options. I'm not even saying that these are the best ones out there. There are definitely some, like the DJI ones have gotten really freaking good, but the main reason why I love the Wireless Pros so much, or why I wanted to pick them up, is mainly for my workflow, especially with doing weddings, is I wanted locking microphone connectors. And though I don't typically just use these as my go-to option for miking up the groom, or anyone like that, the fact that they do have the actual locking connectors makes a big difference and gives me a lot more comfort when I do have to use these with the lav mic. And they sound really good, thanks to, especially with the 32-bit float recording, you have a lot of flexibility there, so you don't have to worry so much about the risk of something possibly peaking. But the biggest thing is I just think they sound fantastic, they have the locking connectors, and they work just as good as all the other brands. And plus, I think you can find these used for like $200 now. Battery life has been fantastic, so not a lot of gripes about these. Maybe just the overall size of the receivers themselves. I wish they were a little bit smaller, but what you gonna do? The last two things that are like in the sort of filmmaking space, these kind of go hand in hand. This one right here might piss off a few people, especially in the current state of how everyone feels about Adobe, but it's actually Premiere Pro. So I started a new job back in August, and in order to be able to work this new job, it required me to switch over my entire workflow to the Adobe Suite, and that included video editing. So since I've started video editing about 6 years ago or so, I have been DaVinci Resolve all the way. I started with the free version, then I eventually bought the studio version. I have not looked back, and I love DaVinci Resolve, and I still love DaVinci Resolve today. I still use it when I can, but with this new job, it did force me to learn how to use Premiere Pro. The switchover was a lot easier than I expected to, and I've actually come to realize that just overall with the entire workflow, especially if you edit a lot of vertical and horizontal video, the workflow in Premiere Pro is unmatched. Now, I'll admit 100%, I don't like the pricing structure of Premiere or any of the Adobe apps, the Adobe Suite in general, and I'm very fortunate, and this is kind of a disclaimer here, I don't have to pay for that. I get a free license through my work. If I had to pay, I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't use Premiere Pro. I'd probably just stick with DaVinci Resolve. But I will say without a doubt, adding that into my workflow, especially my editing workflow, has made my life a lot easier. I think Premiere just does a lot of things better than DaVinci Resolve. Not everything, and you can kill me in the comments. I might do a full video later on about why I like the Switch so much. So if you guys want to watch that video, or if you guys want me to make that video, comment down below. But altogether, it's just made a massive improvement over my workflow. To piggyback off of Premiere Pro, the one thing that Premiere Pro really sucks at is still color grading. It's after you start to get used to it, you start to understand it, and it's not as bad. But I still think, not even I think, I just know, and it's for fact, DaVinci Resolve is light years ahead of Premiere when it comes to color grading. So this company called Dehancer reached out to me to try their app in Premiere Pro to see if I could get some good use out of it and if I wanted to add it into a video. So Dehancer is basically just a film emulation software, but it does have a lot more depth to it than that. And for me personally, I rarely use it to actually emulate specific films, and I really use it for its film grain, but then also its bloom. It's a very robust software. I'm not going to get into everything about it right here because there's a lot of intricate details about it, and there's just a lot of depth to it. But especially if you're a Premiere Pro user and you kind of get tired of how limiting it feels to use a Lumetri color to grade your videos, adding Dehancer into your videos will make a massive difference. It can make a massive difference. So if you want to check that out, click the link down below. You can get a free trial of it, give it a whirl, and if you decide to purchase it, I get a little kickback on the channel, so it helps me out a lot. And the final piece on the tech side of things is my M3 Pro MacBook Pro. Now I've used an M1 Mac Mini with 16 gigs of RAM since it launched, and that thing was an absolute workhorse for me, especially with using DaVinci Resolve. But when I switched to the Adobe Suite and wanted to start to dabble a little bit in After Effects, started to realize pretty fast I really needed something a bit more powerful. So I ended up picking up a used M3 Pro MacBook Pro, and this thing has been an absolute game changer for me. The speeds from M1 to M3 Pro are night and day difference, and everything just runs extremely well on this. Now, I can't do extremely high-end like 3D graphics work without just like some really slow playback, but I don't typically do that kind of work from this anyways. I would just use a PC for that has a lot higher specs than this, but just for what it is and just how much more versatile and how much more portable it's made my workflow, absolutely love it. So this thing has completely replaced my Mac Mini, and then for anything productivity related, I just turn to this. I don't even have to use my PC for anything other than gaming just about anymore, which is quite nice. So the last two items on this list are going to be a little bit different. They're technically still tech, they're just kind of on a different end of the spectrum. And first up is this Milwaukee tire inflator. Now I've been switching over all my tools just about to Milwaukee from Porter Cable over the past few months. So I decided to pick this thing up because even though I do have an actual air compressor, sometimes when you just need to quickly fill up your tire or air something else up, you have to sit there, you have to wait for it to fill, you air up your tire, it runs out of air, it kicks back on, it's very noisy, very loud. This thing makes it a whole lot easier, makes it a whole lot faster. So whatever you're trying to fill up, you set the PSI on this to it and it gets it to the exact amount. It also has a reader so it knows exactly what the PSI is for whatever you're trying to fill up. And it uses the same Milwaukee batteries as all their other tools, so it's completely interchangeable, which is just a fantastic system. I absolutely love that. So that's a huge reason why I'm just completely sold on switching over to Milwaukee for everything. Okay, now for the last item, let's go ahead and take a road trip into the kitchen. All right, so last thing on the list is a coffee maker, a cold brew coffee maker to be specific. This is from Instant. This is the Instant cold brew coffee maker. So what makes this thing cool as opposed to just your normal way to make cold brew coffee is this does it instantly. So this can actually brew an actual pot of cold brew coffee within about 15 to 20 minutes. So you don't have to wait 24 hours for it to steep. Now the trade-off is it's definitely not as good as brewing it for the full 24 hours. But for just a quick fix, if you're just really wanting some cold brew coffee, which I frequently do, and you didn't have time to make it, you can just use this real quick. It takes 15 to 20 minutes. You got a nice, pretty good tasting cup of cold brew coffee, and then whatever's left, you actually can let it steep for the 24 hours and then drink it later. So it's actually pretty solid. It's a really good price, and like I said, if you're a cold brew coffee lover like I am, this is kind of a must-have. It just makes a really good cold brew, and I love the carafe that it comes with. This is just a great carafe, so even if you didn't want to use this like the actual machine itself to brew the coffee. You could just let it steep in this for 24 hours and you still have great cold brew coffee, also with a beautifully filtrated system. So I highly recommend this right here. And guys, as you probably already know, everything that I mentioned in this video is going to be linked down below. So if you want to support the channel, shop at those links. But anyways, thank you for checking out this video. Hope you have a great day. Bye. And it uses the Milwaukee batteries just like every other tool does. And it uses the same Milwaukee batteries. And it uses the same Milwaukee batteries as all their other tools. So